going to talk about nutrition related to the menopause. This is not to undo anything to do with hormone replacement therapy. People can still have that if they wish, but this is more on the food side of things, so it can supplement that. I don't know really what your understanding so far has been about the menopause, because you've been to different groups, but the definition of the menopause is that it's 12 months after your last menstrual period. The time before that is called the perimenopause, before your last menstrual period, and that can really go on for several years. And that's when the hormones are going up and down. You get swings up and down of estrogen and progesterone, the hormones from the ovary, and that's what creates a lot of the symptoms in the perimenopause, when you feel anxious and hot and erratic bleeding. But then when your ovaries stop completely, then it's lack of estrogen and lack of progesterone are what cause the symptoms. And that there are 70 documented symptoms of the menopause, but there are probably even more than that. So that you can perhaps not read those properly, but there's weight gain, painful sex, memory loss, aches and pains, palpitations, dry vaginas, anxiety, hot flushes, brain fog, and there are recurrent urinary tract infections and many more that probably I've not even mentioned. And it's a long time to be in this time of life. Now, estrogen, as in hormone replacement, can alleviate some of those symptoms, but nutrition can also help to a degree, and at some point you probably need to stop hormone replacement therapy anyway, so thinking about nutrition is not a bad idea. So I think the menopause is quite a good time to start to actually look at our lifestyle and look at our habits, and if we have any health problems at that time, to think through those. We need to ponder about our bones, our hearts. Whatever's good for the heart is good for our brains. Mood needs to be thought about at this time of life, and sleep, because that goes off basically, and weight gain. So, can food help at all? The answer is, the evidence is that if we have a lot of berries, as in all the blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, and that nature of food, if you have 2 to 3 portions a day for 2 to 3 months, at the end of that, those women reported less hot flushes. So that's a winner really. And it's due to polyphenols, which is a colourful, all the colours in them are really good for hot flushes. There are naturally occurring estrogens, which are in plants. They're called phytoestrogens, and you get them in beans. So that's any beans, red kidney beans, in your chickpeas, in your lentils, seeds, as in any seed, like linseeds, pumpkin seeds, they all contain phytoestrogens again. So they would get a little bit of natural estrogen without the worrying side effects of estrogen, which is in HRT, that you might be concerned about. And soya is a weakly estrogenic product. Countries where they eat a lot of soya, like Japan, the women there really don't report as many hot flushes. Whether it's not their culture to report it, we're not really sure, but we do think it's due to their diet. And so here we can get soya in soya beans, you can get soya mince, you can get soya yogurts, so it's soya milk, of course. And hot flushes can be benefited by reducing our caffeine, hot drinks, alcohol and spicy foods. They all make hot flushes flare up, yeah. So one problem that women report during the perimenopause is trouble with their mood and anxiety. And that's because really estrogen really is a mood elevator in the brain. So when that drops, or when it's swinging up and down in the perimenopause, when it drops in the menopause, women do quite often feel quite low. And it can be other factors at that time of life as well. It can be that life circumstances, can be relationship problems, can be job problems, but definitely there is a if you drop estrogen, down goes mood in many women. And if you think in your own lives, before periods often our mood goes down. When a lot of women feel really great when they're pregnant, and that's because there's lots of estrogen. And then there's some women who get postnatal depression because the estrogen again drops. And then those same women tend to get depressed at in the menopause, sadly. And so, can we do anything about this? We can. I think we can. Oh, the other thing that makes our mood bad during the menopause is poor sleep. So if we can address some of these things, but we'll talk about what mood boosting foods I've thought about. Well, you probably know most of these things. Nothing I'm saying is rocket science really, but the Mediterranean diet, there is a massive amount of evidence that if you eat what they eat in the traditional Mediterranean countries, so that will be lots of fruit and vegetables, fresh ones preferably if you can, but they can't always be fresh living in Yorkshire really, which we don't grow much here, do we really? But frozen are just as good though actually. Frozen are quite beneficial. And we're looking for a rainbow coloured plate of food because all these colours have got chemicals which are so beneficial to our health. But in the Mediterranean countries, as you probably know if you've been to any of them, they eat a lot of oily fish. So that will be salmon, mackerel, sardines, herring, and you might know more than I know. But they're very, very good for our brain because the brain is made of fat and it needs the good fats basically, which you also get in nuts. Nuts are hugely beneficial. If you did one thing today that you don't do currently, if you went home and ate a little handful of nuts 5 times a week, you would live longer, you know. I'm sure you would. They are all very good. They've got lots of vitamins. They're full of fibre. Probably, I mean, I try to eat in a day about 10 almonds, and I don't really like Brazil nuts, but I have one once in a blue moon because they contain selenium, which is good for the brain, and what are good? Pistachios are very good too, and walnuts probably. If you're going to pick one, go for walnuts probably actually. But I think really a mixture. The whole talk really is about diversity in our diet. In truth, olive oil is very good, especially sprinkled on your salads, because it's anti-inflammatory, which I'll talk about in a moment. Now, dark chocolate, that's a good one for women. A small piece, I don't mean a big bar, and it's got to be like 70% quality or more. If you can go for 85, it's perfect. It's really packed with polyphenols or flavonols, they're all fancy words, but they're chemicals that are super for our brain and our heart, actually. And magnesium's very strong in that, and that's good for our mood, magnesium. And if we are getting these swings of mood up and down, then avoiding caffeine, alcohol and sugar, because with all of those you get peaks and troughs, especially if you have sugary things, and the drop in the sugar level, our blood sugar dropping, makes us feel irritable and headachy and really not so good. Eating a huge amount of fibre benefits our gut, which I'm going to talk about on the next slide, and that I think is the key to good health, to be truthful. That's what's really coming out of all this. Since COVID, you probably read it in all the newspapers, it's the big thing now, isn't it? The gut microbiome. What is the gut microbiome? It's all the organisms growing in our intestines. So that's the bacteria, the viruses and fungi. There's trillions of them. In fact, there's more of them than there are of our cells in our body, which I find amazing. So they do take part in digesting food, but that's only a small thing that they do. They affect our mood so much because they produce 90% of serotonin, which is the feel happy hormone, is made in your gut. So if you make the gut a healthy gut, then you'll get a better mood. And I think that really is key to depression, actually. And there's studies to prove this. I read a study where they took 2 groups of depressed people. They were both on treatment, so they were having medication. One group, they gave psychological therapy. You might not agree with me here, but psychological therapy. The other group, they just said, go away and eat lots of fruit and veg, come off fast food, come off, fizzy drinks. And after, I think it was 6 weeks or 2 months, the group who'd had the fruit and the veg and changed their diet, their depressive scores were hugely improved. So it's called the SMILE study, if you want to go and Google it. I think I'm right, that's what it's called. And then also your gut is involved very much with immunity. So if we feed our gut well, then our immune systems are good, and that's good for us generally. What can make the gut good, what foods do that, it's fibre. Now, we really in the UK, we don't eat, and I'm sure I don't, we do not eat enough fibre. They say the average UK person eats 15 grams. At the end, if you want me to show you a slide, which is on another bit of the computer, what fibre looks like, I can, but we should be having 30 grams, which is a lot actually. It means a lot of brown bread, a lot of brown rice, a lot of fruit and veg. We tend not to do that, I believe. I don't think I do. Nuts are fibrous as well. What else helps the gut? Well, in your gut, you see, you've got good bacteria and you've got bad ones. To get the good ones to thrive, fermented foods are beneficial. And so the simplest one of those is yogurt. We all know about plain white, simple yogurt. That is fermented. There's another product, you may have heard of kefir, which is a fermented like yogurt drink. The bacteria love that too. There are other ones which I have eaten, I've tried. There's kimchi, which you can buy from Tesco. It's like a pickled cabbagey thing. It's a bit strange, but it's all right. So that's very beneficial. You don't have to make it yourself. There's sauerkraut, which is sort of, again, fermented cabbage. And there's a drink, which I haven't tried myself, but you can buy or you can make yourself. Kombucha, it's called. It's a fermented green tea. And it really, and beer actually as well, which I don't like, but beer has it's got the bacteria in it, so if you like the odd beer would actually benefit the gut bacteria. And cheese, plain simple old-fashioned cheese, not fancy processed cheese, just a bit of plain cheddar is a fermented food. And any more things I can think that are fermented. I'm sure there's more that you might know. Anyway, those are the ones I can think at the moment. So yeah, Parmesan cheese is included in that, and I can't think of any more. So those fermented foods are good. And then what's not good for those bacteria in the gut are processed foods. Just kill them off. They just make all the nasty bacteria grow. Sugar does, and alcohol does. Antibiotics do, and stress actually. Stress hugely affects our gut. I don't really think I know why, but I know it's a fact. So to me that's the key to health actually. Right, and that's just a little picture of some foods which have got fibre in, which you know those really, it's all your brown things and your fruit and your veg. But you can get lovely beans and things in so many in the shops now, in tins or in, your supermarkets or health food shops. And they don't have to be expensive. You don't have to, baked beans are quite good to be truthful. So we're not telling you to spend a lot of money. I don't believe in that really. So I'm just going to change the angle a bit on this talk. You probably have heard about this, but I just want to just bring this up really. Inflammation is in all of our bodies. Estrogen is a really lovely hormone. Once it goes, sadly, our bodies become inflamed because estrogen's anti-inflammatory. So in the menopause, our body becomes inflamed. Inflamed is where you get like a burn on your skin. Say you burn yourself in sunburn, it goes red and it's hot. And the skin might break down, but then it heals and goes away. That's acute inflammation. So it's got a purpose, it's short-lived and it resolves. Unfortunately, from the menopause on, we're in a state of chronic inflammation because of lack of estrogen. Also, if we're overweight, the fat cells in our body, and we've all got fat cells, are creating inflammatory cells, so that's not good. What else does alcohol makes us inflamed? Stress makes us inflamed. What else makes us inflamed? Sugar makes us inflamed. From that, diseases appear like cancers, arthritis, dementia. So that's chronic inflammation, which all sounds concerning, and it is, but we can do something about that. So we're not powerless. We can eat an anti-inflammatory diet, and it's not rocket science. It's really what I've been saying earlier. It's the Mediterranean diet again. So back to extra virgin olive oil, fruit and veg, at least 30 different ones in a week. And what I did for a week, because I thought, it's easy. It's actually, I think it's not that easy. I wrote down what I was eating, and you tend to rotate them after a few days. But it isn't, the 30 does include chilies, ginger, garlic, what else? Turmeric, if you use the solid one. They're part of that. So it might be interesting for you to go down and see in a week if you do eat up to 30 or more actually. Oily fish is anti-inflammatory, and nuts are anti-inflammatory, and that's all the nuts, any of the nuts. So that again I think is key to making us have a healthy, really it's about healthy menopause, but it's about then you get healthy aging, you be good older people. That's really what we can do from. And there's a lot of evidence, if you change your diet from middle age, which is what I am anyway, some of you are a lot younger than me, but it makes you be a much better older person, let's say, less dementia, less arthritis and less diabetes. So our bones, we must think about those from the menopause, because your bones get thin from well, mid-30s are at their thickest. So to keep your bone health good is to eat plenty of calcium. And if you can take dairy products, that's where you get the most of it. So that's 2 to 3 portions a day of dairy. So that's a yogurt or a matchbox size piece of cheese. Now, if you can't take dairy, you have to take soya. That has a lot of calcium and it's low fat. Actually, soya is quite good on that side. Leafy greens contain calcium. Fish does. We know that it's got lots of bones, so fish is good. And it doesn't have to be expensive. A tin of sardines is like 90p, so you can have a tin of those on toast, and that's really nutritious for your bones and really filling. We all need for our bones vitamin D, 10 micrograms a day. We need from October right through to April, and it's been such a bad sun. We've not had hardly any sun. I myself am going to keep going till the end of April, I think. You can get vitamin D from oily fish, so salmon and whatnot, eggs and mushrooms, but it's not enough in diet. We really, especially living in the north of England, we don't get enough vitamin D unless you go on plenty of sunny holidays. The sunshine, if you get good sun in the midday, 20 minutes on skin, bare arms and a bare face with no cream on for 20 minutes, your skin will suck up the vitamin D and it loves it. It's really good for your vitamin D. It's good for your bones, it's good for your mood, it's good anti-cancer, anti-inflammatory actually. So vitamin D, I would say, if you say to me, would you take any supplements, the only one I would take is vitamin D. It's been proven to help lots of things. And also, the thing you might or might not know, but I can't say I'm very good at this, but when you go through the menopause, because estrogen drops, yes, your bones get thinner, also your muscles get not so good, sadly. You lose muscle strength. We should be doing, and I don't, I'm terrible, but I keep thinking I will, do weight-bearing exercises, meaning things with the, I don't really know what they're actually, because I don't do them, but resistance training. So that helps you to be stronger, apparently. And we need to do that, otherwise we'll become, when we're older, we'll be frail old people, which I don't want to be personally. I don't know if I will be, but... So, the next, women complain Women complain bitterly at the menopause, and it's a fact, I'm afraid, of weight gain. Now, why is that? I looked into why, and it's because estrogen, it's complicated, so I won't go too much into the hormones, but estrogen, let's see if I can explain it simply. Estrogen helps us to control appetite. It's to do with, there's 2 hormones that control our appetite. One's called ghrelin, and one's called leptin. I won't go into the ins and outs because I think I'll get confused myself, but when you're eating and you've got estrogen on board, we know when to stop, but when that's gone, when you're in the menopause, we do lose that ability to stop, that we don't know when we've had enough. So that's one fact as to why women gain weight at the menopause. Could also be that we're less active. We may be, in jobs where we're sitting a lot, and so that could be a fact, and we're not running around after small children anymore. So it could be to do with activity levels. Also though, when estrogen drops, estrogen has, as I said earlier, a mood elevating effect. Progesterone is another hormone from our ovaries which drops. That makes us calm, and so we are more prone to stress, sadly, when we go through the menopause. And so cortisol is a hormone that rises when we're stressed. Cortisol causes weight gain, and unfortunately, as we perhaps all, well, you might not all know, but it all tends to be around women's middle. It becomes more like a male pattern of fatness, if you see it to me. Sadly, we become less pear-shaped, we become more apple-shaped, and that's not so good for our hearts, actually. But it's not all bad news. We can do things to help ourselves, like if we eat a very high fibre diet, which we can slowly introduce more fibre, we can. So oats are very fibrous, seeds and nuts. If we feel full after a meal, then we're less likely to snack on things that are calorific and not beneficial to us. So we should try to minimise white refined carbohydrates like biscuits, anything made with white flour. Try to turn to the darker flours, the brown flours. If you don't like it, or your family don't like it, do it slowly, do it sort of half and half. You can buy breads with a bit of brown and a bit of white, and then you can slowly, this is what I did with my family. I move them slowly to brown, and they now love brown things. They didn't, and like brown rice, they didn't like that to start with, so I put half and half, and now they all have brown rice. You can get red rice, you know, black rice, if nobody knows. Really, really good for you, absolutely packed full of antioxidants. They sell them in booths. They are more expensive, but they're much better for us. And minimise alcohol, just because in this particular bit about weight gain, it's calorific. So if you're worried about weight, you're taking empty calories, really. Now, some women find, and men as well equally, and some of you may have tried this, I haven't tried it, but intermittent fasting seems to help some people keep a good weight. To do that, what we seem to do is have 600 calories 2 days a week. The other days you eat normally. Some people find they can keep their weight down with that. I know I would struggle to do that, so I haven't tried that. What I have tried, and I think it helps some people again, is time restricted eating. So you have your last meal of the day, not too late. You have to work it in with your job. What's sort of practical? Have your last meal, let's say 6 or 7 p.m. Then eat nothing more, no snacking, nothing, no drinks, no nothing. And then have a latish breakfast, say maybe like 10 in the morning. That you're aiming at 12 to 14 hours of fasting. So it's not fasting for a whole day. Doing that, your gut microbes love it, because they don't need to digest any food anymore. They can do all their other good work. They can give you the serotonin to your brain, and they're like an immune system in your gut. They get rid of any toxins, they get rid of cancer cells floating about. Well, that's what we hope anyway. So time restricted eating, a lot of people find that helpful. And then, for weight gain, I just popped in there about the resistance training. We don't need to do it daily, apparently, but 2 to 3 times a week, you build muscle and less fat, apparently. That's something I need to do. So these are just pictures of foods with protein, which you probably all know all of these. It's your beans, your fish, your lean meat, good quality red meat, cottage cheese, nuts, eggs. They're all, and there's probably some more that I haven't mentioned. Women complain of poor sleep from the menopause, or even through the perimenopause, and we do definitely, when they look at women's sleep and they monitor it, the quality definitely is not as good as it used to be. Probably can be due to hot flushes, and it may be other factors too, stress possibly. We can do things to help our sleep though, like we can eat, again, the fruit and veg which feed our gut. Serotonin is made, and serotonin is what calms us and helps us sleep better. Soya is meant to help sleep, seeds again, which I mentioned, and foods which are magnesium rich, such as bananas, nuts, oats and milk, apparently. If you eat those maybe later in the day, you might sleep better. I don't know, and people have talked about cherry juice, but I tried that. It didn't make any difference to me, but I don't know. But we should try to avoid alcohol, sugar and caffeine in the evening, or certainly after tea, or even after 2 p.m. actually, if you're not sleeping well. Herbal teas are good. Chamomile's quite nice. Sage tea's quite, well, it's not very nice actually, but water's good. Keep your room, if you are struggling to sleep because you're hot, keeping the room temperature between 16 to 18 is recommended. Now, there's a lot of evidence about daylight. If you get a walk in the morning, which is difficult when we all go to work, but if you get some daylight early in the day, it's to do with melatonin, which our brain makes and helps us to sleep. You keep melatonin levels down in the morning if you walk in the morning, and then melatonin rises slowly during the day. Like now, all our melatonin will be going up because daylight's going down, and we'll feel sleepy, hopefully, and then we'll sleep well. So melatonin is very important for our sleep, and I think there is a link with estrogen and melatonin. I don't really know what it is, but I'm sure if I looked into it I could find out. So getting a bit of daylight in the morning if we can. We complain of tiredness, a lot of us, in midlife. Could be poor sleep, could be poor diet, could be stress. I would recommend, if any of you here feel tired and you've not been to the GP, I would get anemia checked, I would get diabetes checked, and your thyroid, because all those things can pop up in our midlife, especially if you've had heavy periods, in the lead up to the menopause. We can help tiredness by having a good quality diet, so we can eat plenty of iron-rich food, so that's obviously red meat. If you're vegetarian, you'd have to look at beans and lentils. Dark green leafy things have got iron. Magnesium is good for if we're a bit tired. Magnesium's in bananas and nuts, and leafy greens have got magnesium. And zinc is really good for giving us energy, which you get from seafood, I believe. If we eat, if we all get, if I don't know if you're all working women here, but if you feel a bit tired mid-afternoon, what they say helps to avoid that. I have tried this and I think it does help. Having a proteinaceous lunch, meaning like boiled eggs with tuna, or I don't know what you like to eat, but a protein or cottage cheese. Avoiding carbohydrate, like avoiding like white sandwiches would be tricky, because what happens is you feel okay when you eat it and you get a blood sugar spike, then it drops down 2 hours later and then you feel all tired and sort of floppy. So avocado is a healthy fat, olive oil, oily fish, a salmon, you could have a, I don't know, salmony salad, and or a full fat, like a Greek yogurt for lunch would be good, not with sugar, not sugary ones. That might help avoid the peaks and troughs of blood sugar. And if any of you here are younger women, eating like that's beneficial in the perimenopause as well, because it stops the swings of blood sugar and the mood swings that we can get at that time. And if you're a bit peckish, I've tried this recently as well, I swear by this. I've been eating a carrot mid-afternoon, and my husband started doing it too, and he agrees. If you're a bit hungry but you don't really need anything, eating a carrot, you know, they're quite big, aren't they? So by the time you got to the end of it, you're not hungry anymore. And I feel like it's good for me anyway. Or a handful of nuts or seeds, or I know they're not very exciting compared to a biscuit, but the biscuits and the things, they're rewards, but which shouldn't be, I don't know, it's how we see food, isn't it? But it's not doing our bodies good, I think anyway. We can be tired because we're not drinking enough water. I think that often is the case in this country. We should, if we're struggling to sleep, we should avoid caffeine, as I said, after 2 p.m. And alcohol and sugar in the evenings affect our quality of sleep. So if you're struggling to sleep, try to limit those, and maybe think about time-restricted eating. Some people do find that really good. So this talk, I feel I should mention that from the menopause onwards, the midlife risk of cancer seems to increase for a variety of reasons. And there are things with nutrition that we can do to protect ourselves against this. There are certain vegetables known as the cruciferous vegetables, which are broccoli, cauliflower, sprouts, cabbage, which are thought to have and been shown to have anti-cancer properties. So incorporating those into our diets can be beneficial. In addition, the Mediterranean diet, which I keep mentioning throughout this talk, which consists of a wide variety of fresh fruit and vegetables, oily fish, nuts, lean meat, dairy, small amount of dairy, beans and seeds, and extra virgin olive oil preferably. Having a diet rich in this seems to reduce the cancer risk in people. Also, we can help our cancer risk by reducing sugar in our diet, because it has been seen that people with diabetes have a greater risk of cancer. So if we can reduce our risk of developing diabetes, this will help us long term. And just having a large amount of fibre in our diet, so that would be brown bread, brown pasta, brown rice, helps the colon to work, and there's been a reduced risk of colon cancer in people who have a high fibre diet. And in addition, around the middle time of life, it's important to keep a healthy weight, because evidence shows that the more overweight people are, then there are greater risk of cancers of all types, including breast cancer and other cancers which seem to develop in menopause onwards. And alcohol and ultra-processed food, having too much of those, there is an increase in cancer risk. At the time of the menopause, estrogen, up until that point, protects the heart, But once you go through the menopause and estrogen drops, women get the same rate of heart disease as men do. But we can help this, despite having a lack of estrogen, by increasing oily fish in our diet, such as that would include salmon, mackerel, kippers, sardines. They're oily fish. They have omega-3, which protects the heart to a degree. Having these oily fish twice a week and a handful of nuts 5 times a week, if people have diets rich in these, they have lower risk of heart disease. And fruit and vegetables, because they contain so many different nutrients and minerals, these are protective towards the heart. So trying to have 30 different ones a week, they all have different benefits, and these help the heart. And a rainbow coloured plate, because all the different colours, the different pigments have beneficial effects on our body. Fibre is beneficial for the heart because the higher fibre that we eat, so high amount of brown bread and pasta, etc., but also oats, it binds to cholesterol and reduces that, and so helps our heart health, as do pulses and beans. They're beneficial for the heart. Sugar is not helpful to the heart because it's inflammatory, so trying to keep sugar levels of processed sugar, refined sugars, keeping those to a minimum is beneficial. And saturated fat, which we get in pastries and biscuits and red meat, these are all not helpful to the heart health, so trying to cut those down as much as possible. And salt is linked with high blood pressure, and this is not so good for our heart, so reducing salt, reducing ultra processed foods and alcohol, because they can all push the heart to not work so well. And the things that I've mentioned above for the heart, all of these are beneficial for our brain, because what's good for our heart health is also good for the brain. And as we go through midlife, people worry about getting dementia, so there are things we can do to help the brain and the heart health. So a lot of my talk has been actually quite repetitive, I appreciate, but my summary is that we can help the symptoms of the menopause to a large degree with diet, and this can be used alongside hormone replacement therapy if women wish to take that, but if they can't or don't wish to, there is some benefit from good diet. So my summary is that if we try to tend towards a Mediterranean diet, if we try to stick to high fibre, have fermented foods to help our gut health, try to do majority of our cooking from scratch, really, from full whole ingredients if we can, and have a diverse diet, up to 30 different fruit and veg a week if possible. Low or no alcohol is beneficial to both menopausal symptoms and to our long-term health. Cutting down on caffeine and cutting down on sugar, because these can exacerbate menopausal symptoms, but also they can cause long-term health problems. And keeping active and maintaining a healthy weight will help both menopausal symptoms plus our long-term health. So I'm just going to leave you with an acronym that I read the other day, which is G-BOMBs. And these are foods that if we incorporate these into our diet on a daily basis, it will help both the menopause, but also help us long-term. The G stands for greens, and that's any nature of greens, cauliflower, salad products, any green veg. B stands for berries, and having a couple of portions of berries a day is very beneficial. Onions includes garlic, onions, leeks, anything of that family. And they're helpful to the heart and helpful to the gut. Mushrooms, I haven't mentioned them hugely in this talk, but they have some really helpful cancer protective properties maybe, but they're strongly full of vitamin D, so they're beneficial to our health, and they're full of fibre. And beans of any nature, lentils and pulses, all help our gut and help our bones and help our mood, so that's also beneficial. And the S stands for seeds and nuts and spices, all of which, if we can incorporate more of those, then that will be beneficial to us generally. So really my talk is to say that there is something we can do to help our midlife health, or from the menopause onwardly, and what we do at this time of life will help us to age well. But food is a pleasure, and I'm not denying that, and I'm not saying that we should stick to a very rigid diet and exclude some of the really pleasant social experiences that we have, because eating with family and eating out is good, and that must be taken into consideration. But I suppose one of my questions would be, we should ask ourselves, when we're reaching for that snack which has no nutritional benefit, we should say, am I really hungry? Is it that I'm thirsty, or am I tired, or am I bored? And perhaps use some other technique maybe for distracting ourselves, or eat something more nutritionally beneficial, because that will help us long term. And that's the summary of my talk. Thank you very much for listening.